Robert Seelig joins us. He's the founder and CEO of CFCS. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, Bonnie. Bishop Reed, nice to be with you this morning.
Oh, great to be with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
So tell us a little bit.
Just to tell you, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You.
Yeah, no, I know. I appreciate you playing a little bit of information about us. Catholic Funeral and Cemetery Services is a relatively new organization in a 2,000-year-old Catholic church. I founded CFCS about 10 years ago at the request of a group of bishops to revitalize the cemetery ministry, and that's now included adding funeral homes in some dioceses. And so we work throughout the United States as a nonprofit serving the Catholic Church.
Wow. Yeah, and it was a great introduction, I thought, the video coupled with what you've just said, because people do avoid that pre-planning kind of piece. So that was a great introduction to that. Thank you.
And, you know, I have to say, let's be honest, ever since the fall, people have been dying. And we all know that we're going to someday die, every one of us. And but there's this inability sometimes of people to sit and actually talk about what their expectations are, for a funeral and a burial. We just don't like to think about it or talk about it. But could you offer us perhaps some practical considerations, some practical support? How does your organization foster this kind of healthy discussion?
Yeah, well, Bishop, I think that the first thing I would recommend everybody is don't wait till the time of need to start planning a funeral. When you lose a loved one, it's overwhelming, right? The grief, the feelings that you have, the family you need to contact. So we ask all families to consider pre-planning a funeral where they're going to be buried so that they can actually put some plans in place for their family members. So it takes a little bit of the stress for those left behind to plan that out. Now that seems so practical, right? But I can tell you most of us, while we're all in the process of dying every day, we tend to think that we have a long time to plan this out. So we encourage people to pre-plan those, go to the parish priest, go to the funeral home, go to the cemetery, and connect the dots so that it's laid out for their children.
Yeah, those are, very pragmatic thoughts, and certainly for a person to have their wishes honored, to have, say, a Catholic Mass, to have those wishes, put forth. So you don't really work with individuals; you work with dioceses, archdioceses. So what are the advantages for a diocese or a parish to participate in CFCS?
Yeah, so Catholic Funeral and Cemetery Services was really just set up as a nonprofit for the Catholic Church. I go to work for bishops and dioceses, work actually with parishes in some cases where they have a parish cemetery. And what we really do is we bring a series of programs. So we're really what you would call an outreach-based organization. We actually encourage the staff and to get integrated back into the parish, and the parishes to work with the priests to do outreach ministry, because 85% of Catholics don't want to go to a cemetery to plan their funeral, which, we did surveys and we've realized that people are, no one wants to walk through the gates of a cemetery to go plan their own demise, right? So we have to go out and we have to reach into the parishes. We have to integrate ourselves into the community. So I think of this as what Pope Francis says: we have to get out and have the smell of the sheep. We have to be with families where they are living and working and praying, right? So that's the mission of our organization, working with a bishop and a diocese, is to reinvigorate that ministry.
And Robert, I know that you've served also as director of cemeteries for a diocese, and that's a very challenging role. I mean, I think every role that people serve in a diocese is challenging these days. But who are some of the bishops and dioceses with whom you've worked, who you are serving at this present time?
Yeah, so I work everywhere from we've served in over 30 dioceses around the United States, everywhere from the Diocese of Honolulu to the west, and as far as the Archdiocese of San Juan and Puerto Rico, up to the Diocese of Portland and Maine with Bishop Deely, as well as Denver, Detroit, Milwaukee, a couple of dioceses in Ohio. The one thing I was just going to share with you is that as a director of cemeteries, I only thought I was going to come to work for the church for a couple of years. I got asked by the bishop in the Diocese of Oakland to reconfigure his cemeteries. And he didn't know this about me, but when I was 4 years old, my dad passed away tragically. And so I had a curiosity as a young man to go figure out whether cemeteries were relevant. Well, that was also a personal journey of reconciling the loss of my dad. And so what I see so vital to this ministry is that all of us go through loss. And the one thing most of us don't realize is that healing and reconciliation can happen in our cemeteries. It's at a funeral, and it's the pulling of family together. So when I talk to bishops and everything, it's such a real personal experience for each one of us, how we go through that grief and loss.
Certainly. That's a very powerful witness, Robert. Thanks so much for sharing that. Where can our viewers learn more about your organization?
Yeah, so if they want to go to a website, it's CFCSmission.org. So CFCS, Catholic Funeral and Cemetery Services, mission.org.
Great. Thanks so much. And thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
All right. Thank you for having me.
God bless. Have a great weekend.
God bless you.
You too.
Thanks.